Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Really glad to have this man on. It's the Attorney General of the great state of Texas, my friend Ken Paxton. Ken, Happy New Year. How are you?
I am doing well. Happy New Year's.
This whole Texas speakers thing doesn't sound like it would be interesting to anybody but people in Texas. But I think you and I agree it's very interesting because you had a guy, this Dade Phelan guy, who was the Speaker of the House for a long time, who you and I agree appeared to be under the influence of something while doing the job. He was a guy that went after you full-throated for no reason, and you've been exonerated and all that stuff. And now we're sort of wondering what's going to happen next. So is it January 14th? Is it 6 days from now when they actually choose a new speaker? And what does it look like is going to happen there?
So I don't think anybody knows for sure. I mean, you've got a guy, Dustin Burrows, who is Dade 2.0, who is aligning with 62 Democrats. And what the Democrats have done over the last 16 years is they block vote. And you need 76 votes, which is a majority of 150, to become speaker. Then you only need a few Republicans. You only need 15 Republicans, including the actual guy that's trying to get it. So really 14 to get to the right number. And so that's what they're doing. Actually, so 62, they only actually need 13 plus the guy. So that's the way they've cut it in the past. And they that way they get control of the agenda. Instead of the Republican majority deciding themselves who's going to be speaker, a little splinter group goes off because then they get more power. But the cost is to the constituents and to the other Republicans don't get their agenda done.
I want those watching and listening to understand. In Texas, you've got a majority of Republicans in the House and Senate. They don't need one Democrat vote to do anything they want. For some reason, we've got chairmanships that are being held by Democrats in Texas. And if you compare it nationally in the House of Representatives, because even with a slim majority, the Republicans have the majority, they're going to select every chair for every single committee. Why is Texas, this red of the reddest states, doing it so backward? Why is this inclusivity? Is this DEI? Is this intersectionality? Why the hell give any power whatsoever to the minority party when you don't need to?
Because Dustin Burrows, if left to the Republican caucus, would not be in power. He'd just be another Republican member with maybe a good chairmanship, maybe not. And these other 12 or 13 that go with them, by going with him, they cut a separate deal. The rest of the Republicans don't get to control the agenda. Now this little group of Republicans has more power than they otherwise would. So they trade the best interest of the state, the best interest of the party, and they align with the Democrats to get more power. That's all it is. It is a pure power play. It costs all of us, and the Democrats have been successful at subverting the agenda because remember, the Senate can't get their bills through the House, and they always end up dying because of some reason. We just ran out of time. No, they die because the Democrats don't want it, and the Republican speaker is beholden to them, and this has been going on in Texas for 16 years.
Ken, do you think the representative districts, the people in these districts understand the games that are being played? If you vote for a conservative or a Republican, somebody with an R under their name, you expect them to do a certain thing. And these people are going, and you're saying it's 13, 14, that's all they need, are going with the other side. Do these districts understand that's happening?
I would say in the past they haven't because the media doesn't cover it, right? They don't want the voters to know this. The individual representatives who are part of this go back and say, hey, we're doing the right thing. They don't tell them the truth. And then a lot of other Republicans will pile on and join the crowd because they want to keep some power. And so you just have a minority who's been speaking out. I spoke out when I was in the House because that's when it started, and I didn't capitulate. But I think more than ever, because we've been out there campaigning for the last year for replacement of some of these incumbents who impeached me and who have joined the Democrats, now people are more aware. So I've been doing events all over the state, and I've never seen more interest in the speaker's race and more interest in Republicans aligning with Republicans to elect a Republican who will do Republican issues and do it a Republican agenda as opposed to what we've had in the past with the Democrats.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, great Attorney General. You were impeached. This was a witch hunt. You've been exonerated now. We'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But do you think when you go, like you did a bus tour last week, a big bus tour across Texas, as you just alluded to, people are waking up to what's going on in the House and the Senate. Isn't there time before, I know it's only 6 days, but isn't there time to sit down with these 13 or 14 and tell them, listen, your districts are done with you. You do this, you're going to get voted out. Do they understand the ramifications that their political career is done if they keep on doing this? Because we are informing people now, Ken. You and I have been doing it for a long time.
Well, they have they've gotten away with it for so long that it almost takes a lot more to convince them. So that's why I am doing this road tour. That's why I'm out speaking. That's why we're trying to get media coverage, because we want the voting public, particularly the Republicans who elected these people, to know that they're being betrayed by their own Republicans, and these Republicans are lying to them. The Dustin Burrows of the world, the Jeff Leaches of the world are lying, and the Jared Pattersons of the world are lying to their constituents, saying one thing and doing completely the opposite. It's not even close to what they promised.
Ken, are they not reading the room? I mean, obviously, there's a mandate nationally for the Republican Party, for conservatism, for America First, or on a smaller level, Texas First. Do they not understand that there's a sea change happening in this country, and they're behind the times if they don't catch up?
No, I think they've seen the room. They don't like the room. They don't like the change in the room. They don't like the change in the color. So they're acting like they're playing along, but they're trying to keep the agenda the way it has been and do the same things they've been successful at doing for 16 years. I mean, look, Jeff Leach and Jared Patterson and Dustin Burrows have been successful at lying to their constituents for years, and they think they can get away with it again. We're trying to make that different.
It is the Attorney General of the great state of Texas, Ken Paxton. Follow him over on X because he posts all sorts of great stuff that he's doing, not only for Texas, but for the United States. When it comes to tying Biden's hands, tying Obama's hands, the lawsuits galore against big tech, big media, all sorts of places. Ken's been doing it right. Also, in trying to protect our border. I want to let you in on something here live on the interview that I don't know that I've told you before. When all this was going down, I was contacted by some people in your office telling me that you were done, telling me that you did this, and this. And you'll notice I've been steadfast behind you the entire time. The reason I've done that is because there was no evidence saying you did anything wrong. Absolutely none. When I saw this witch hunt come to fruition in the Senate and in the House here in Texas, it made me sick to my stomach, the infighting that I was seeing. So I hope that people watching and listening will also do what I did, which is don't take the word of somebody online or even an anonymous text that you get or an email. Make sure that you actually go down the rabbit hole and find out what's really going on. Ken, at the end of the day, you've been exonerated. The impeachment was ridiculous. It was a witch hunt, and you were proven to have done nothing wrong. Now that you can talk about it so much later, what was it all about to begin with? They didn't like that you were calling out Dade Phelan. They didn't like that you were calling out the fact that there are these weak-kneed, mealy-mouthed Republicans that aren't doing the job of their districts. What was it? In essence, why did they want you out of the way?
Because of the things that I'm doing. The lawsuits against Biden were the first things. So the Biden administration came to Dade Phelan, who's elected by Democrats, and said, hey, we want this guy out of the way. And of course, Karl Rove and the Bushes were willing to participate. So it was an alignment of sort of the Bush-Rove wing of the party with the Democrats to say, let's get rid of this guy. We can't seem to beat him at the ballot box. He wins, he beat George P. Bush 68-32. So that didn't work. I just got reelected, went through all, them spending millions of dollars to attack me on all the same issues. And then these guys in my office joined with the Bushes to try to get rid of me because they thought they would benefit personally if they did it. So it was an alignment. It was definitely the Biden administration. It was definitely Dade Phelan and the Democrats in the House with these moderate Republicans that we're fighting now, along with Karl Rove and the Bushes.
Had you lost to George P. Bush, would they have left you alone, do you think?
Oh, yeah. They thought they had me in the election. They ran 3 people against me, all pretty legitimate. And they spent a lot of money. They attacked me over and over. They all aligned to work against me, just hoping to knock me out. It didn't work. They tried the guys in my office. They indicted me. They came after me with the SEC. They've come after me. The FBI investigated me the entire 4 years that Biden was in office. So they've tried 6 or 7 different ways to get rid of me. And the election didn't work because I kept winning. And so they tried lawfare.
And now it's gone through the Texas Supreme Court and you're complete. This is done. This is over.
Yes. Yes.
What did they say? I mean, did they rule in regard to there was nothing there? It was frivolous. It was a witch hunt. How do they rule in saying, okay, this is done. It's over with. No wrongdoing. How do they do that?
Well, so, I mean, the biggest trial was really the impeachment because that was all public. Everything else has been procedural. So I haven't actually, we've been in front of the Supreme Court on the bar case where the state bar came after my license. My first assistant just got exonerated. I'm waiting for my day. They haven't made a final ruling in mine, but my ruling should be the same. It's the same exact argument. We have every right. They came after me because I filed that lawsuit against the other 4 states of the election and said that I filed a frivolous lawsuit, therefore deserve to lose my license. Well, that's crazy for some state bar bunch of Democrats to
Right.
tell me what cases I can file. So we've had all kinds. It's not just one case. The FBI investigated me literally until Trump was elected. They were still trying to find a way after 4 years to put me in prison. That's what they do to you if you're effective. They give up on the election because they can't beat you. If the people like you and they like what you're doing and you're doing the right things for Texas and the country, then suddenly you're a criminal.
It is Attorney General Ken Paxton. You are not a criminal, and I'm glad that you were exonerated in that ridiculous impeachment. I like what Dan Patrick had to say afterwards, chiding those who actually brought the charges. I'm glad that you're out there working hard for us. Is there any update on the Google ad stuff that you've been working on for a long time? Suddenly, it looks like Mark Zuckerberg wants to be a libertarian. You've got suddenly X as a conservative site. I mean, people are starting to come around and pretend like they're not who they were before, and I'm not sure that I believe in Zuckerberg. But when it comes to big tech, are they awake to the fact that you've been doing this way longer than anybody else, have been going after them for good reason, and that America is waking up to their censorship, and they're keeping us down, and they're hiding our ability to freely speak? What's the latest on all that?
Well, look, these lawsuits are having an impact. We sued, we sued Meta and Facebook. We got a $1.4 billion settlement, largest settlement between a state and one company in the history of the country. Wow. So we've got 3 different lawsuits against Google coming up this spring. One of them is just like the Zuckerberg lawsuit where they stole our faces and they did it illegal. Another one is where they said they weren't tracking us, and they were tracking us. They lied to us. The third one is this ad tech case where they control like 98% of the advertising on the internet, and we're suing them as an antitrust violation. All of those cases are really good cases. They're all going to trial in Texas this spring, and we've got a really good chance of winning all of them.
It is Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of the great state of Texas. Ken, is there anything the state can do after Mayorkas is out of the job to sue him, to charge him? I mean, it seems to me that the Homeland Security Advisor or the Homeland Security Secretary, who has done an incredible job aiding and abetting bad guys coming across the border, especially here in Texas, I would think there would be hell to pay. Does he just get to ride off into the sunset after leaving our border wide open and putting Texans and others in harm's way?
Joe, one of my biggest complaints about being in Texas is that the Texas legislature hasn't given me, the Attorney General, the authority to have concurrent jurisdiction. So the DAs, the local DAs, San Antonio being a very Soros DA in San Antonio, Soros DA in Travis County, Soros DA in Dallas County. Yeah. They decide whether people are going to be prosecuted. In other states, there's concurrent jurisdictions. So if the Soros DA don't do their jobs, the the Attorney General can come in and do it. I want some authority to go after some of these crimes. Right now, nothing will happen. Just like we're dealing with no voter fraud prosecutions right now, when they took that authority, when the Court of Criminal Appeals took that away from me, we're trying to get all of that back, plus the ability to go after some of these other things, so that somebody is prosecuting crime in Texas.
And is it true, Ken, that you nor the governor can remove a DA who is derelict in their duty? It's the legislature, right?
Yeah. So there are certain provisions where we can, but they're very limited. And those are new, and so far they haven't been tested. They also we haven't been able to use them yet. But what we really need is somebody else. Like in other states, there's accountability for the DAs. If the DA commits a crime, the Attorney General can prosecute. In our state, if the DA commits a state crime, I mean, I can't go after him. Who can go after him? You? Nobody can go after him. They can do whatever they want.
You're supposed to be able to. I would think that you would be able to.
I can't. I'm not. I have no authority to go after. I have to get a referral. They'd have to refer the case to me. So if they committed a crime, they'd have to refer their own case to me.
The DA would have to refer a case against the DA to you see that's just stupid. Yeah, Ken, that's dumb. And this is why the Republicans need to man up and woman up and do the right thing in the legislature. It's Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, great state of Texas. I don't want to leave you without talking about this story that was the biggest story about a month ago in the entire nation. Joe Biden, the Biden administration, are selling off parts of the wall. Dan Patrick was going to buy them instead, and then it turns out that they weren't any good anyway. What is this material that we're talking about, and are you able to stop them from selling this material before Trump takes office?
Yes. So what happened? There was really good material. They hid it from Dan and from his people. There was really good material they were selling off. We actually sued them a couple of years ago to try to force Biden to use the appropriations that he was directed by Congress to build the wall. In May of this year, we got a successful order ordering them to use the money that they were given to build the wall. Well, so that was our order. That happened in May. Well, then President Trump makes note of the fact that they're selling off assets. So we went right back into court after I talked to President Trump, and we asked the judge for an accounting. Well, we haven't gotten that accounting, The DOJ came to the table very quickly and said, we swear we're not going to sell anything anymore. We're not selling anything anymore. So presumably they have stopped selling stuff, and we are within the next month or so, I think, going to get an accounting of what they did sell. And if they did violate that order, I presume that the judge will hold them accountable, potentially in contempt.
And they stopped them from selling the material because of your action.
That's exactly right.
So what made them think they could sell it? Ken, if I understand it right, we bought the materials, we hired the general contractors. When Biden takes office, he stops any building, still paid the contractors, still paid off the material that we bought, let it sit there for 4 years, some of it getting rusty and unusable, and now he's selling it for scrap. How is that okay in an America where we owe $36 trillion? I don't understand.
It's clearly a violation of his constitutional duty. It's clearly a violation of federal law. It's not okay. And that's why we sued him. That's the only way we could hold him accountable. So we sued him 2 years ago. I mean, this wasn't just a recent lawsuit. And he was given a court order, which it looks like he completely violated. Said, look, Congress told me to do this. I'm not doing it. Congress was elected by the American people. I'm not going to listen to them. A judge ordered me not to sell these assets, sell off the wall. I don't listen to judges. He treated the office as if he was a king or some type of dictator.
Wow. You know, and I got to tell you, without somebody like you, and you've got a couple of other really good ones out there too, Andy Bailey, you've got some really good attorneys general that are doing the job right. Without you guys and gals, I mean, honest to God, we'd have a fiefdom. We would have a central government that was run by a monarchy. As they eat prime rib, they'd be giving us cake. You held them to account, and I believe you. This is why they went after you as full-throated as they did. They thought they could get you out because of the power of the Bushes and Karl Rove and others. I'm glad that you stood firm. What bothers me the most about that, and maybe a quick comment on this if you don't mind, is that they took you out of the job the entire time that was going on. How ridiculous was that we didn't have an acting attorney general for that period of time?
Well, think about it. The reason they did, I sued them 103 times in 4 years, and we were successful in, I think it was 77% of our cases. So we were having real impact. That is what motivated this. And they had willing participants with Dave Phelan and the Republican liberal part of the Republican House and Karl Rove and that group. And that is absolutely the reason they did it. They needed me out of the way because of the damage we were doing with our lawsuits, and including going after big tech and big pharma and some of these big companies that are defrauding our consumers.
I'm glad you came out on top. I'm glad you're working for us. I'm glad you're working for my family. Thank you, Ken. It's Ken Paxton. Go follow him online on X. He posts all these great lawsuits and great moves that he's making for Texas and for the country. Let's do it again soon, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Joe.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.